twice. Didn't see anyone the entire time.
Well, you just muted yourself again.
I know, they were having a side conversation.
Sidebar.
Okay, go ahead.
Awesome, guys. So kind of mentioned this yesterday on the internal group. So I've invited Brian Fisher, Brian Stone, so the Bryans, and then Melinda to kind of talk about what we took away from family reunion. We want this to be kind of an open conversation. If you guys have questions about the things that we took away, please reach out. Please say something. If you guys are online, put it in the chat. I'll do my best to watch it. I'm not great at watching the Zoom chat, but I'll do my best. So with that being said, I really wanted to start off with asking you guys, what was your biggest one thing takeaway, right? We kind of all joked about, what we learned. That it was kind of a similar conversation had throughout the entire weekend. But I wanted to get you guys' first take on that. Like, what was the one thing that you took back and you said, everything's okay because this, or here's where I'm aligning myself with that goes this way. Brian Stone.
Really, it was career visioning. That's what stood out.
Yeah.
So in the conversation I was able to see between Gary Keller and Jason Abrams, they put a lot of focus of that discussion on career visioning.
Yep.
One of the big quotes I got from Gary was, the past is important, the present is important, but the future is the only thing that matters, right? And you can choose your future by who you are deciding to be in relationship with. So that really stuck out. He talked about mastering the career visioning process. And then once you've mastered it, teach it, right? Because we are in the business of influence, period.
Teaching, it's the number one way to become a master at it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of career visioning, we have two of them coming up in Chicago's not really our region, but it's a pretty easy trip to get up there. You can literally plane, train, or automobile. It's kind of one of those deals. You have career visioning in March in Chicago. I don't know the dates. And then you have CV in Kansas City on the 7th and 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
8th and 9th, I think.
8th and 9th. Okay.
March.
Yeah. Yes. 8th and 9th of March. So that's a Tuesday and Wednesday. I know myself and Sam and Wes are going to go up that morning. So if you guys need a ride, feel free to jump in. We'll have an extra space. We plan on only staying up one night. So it's a pretty inexpensive trip and you'll 10x your business based off of that one thing right there. So if you've been to career visioning, go again. It's hugely impactful. On that note, speaking of career visioning, the queen here, Melinda.
I have taken it 8 times and
Yeah.
I still learn something new every single time.
100%.
So I would absolutely
It's kind of
take it again.
like reading the red book. You just
Mhm.
keep on reading it and you'll take something else new from it every time.
When you're in a different place in your business,
Mhm.
so it's gonna show up differently every time you take it. And
Absolutely.
you're gonna realize that if you shortcut the process, you're gonna shortcut your business. And to me, I am a huge believer of career visioning. Like, it's the number one tool that I think has helped us build a really strong foundational team that builds upon our culture. So I can't speak highly enough about it.
Real quick, Rachel just gave me the dates. So Chicago is March 3rd and 4th. Overland Park, Kansas City area is March 8th and 9th. So we have the actual dates. What was your big thing, your big one takeaway?
I loved Gary Keller's CEO Mastermind. I took a lot away from that, but I think the number one thing for me that was how impactful expansion is going to be on the current real estate market
Mhm.
and real estate businesses nationwide is expanding, and expansion teams are going to grow at a really high factor compared to other businesses. And so just making sure that we're impactful as we have grown our expansion network, and making sure that we find great partners to partner with and that we have our standards really clear. But the other really big piece that I thought was really powerful was talking about leads and how leads and technology are changing every single day. And what you thought you had a great lead generating system or platform 2 years ago is totally different than what you might see now. And so you need to keep looking and being relevant, making sure that the lead system you're using or generator is impacting the way you want it to show up in your business.
It's really hard to audit something, or it's really hard to make that first step to say, I need to audit this when you think it's working, right? I think of sports and you're like, oh, this fastball is working. Well, would it work better if you changed it just that different, right? And that's really what auditing a successful system is going to do, right? You might gain a 1%. Well, that 1% on that 1% on that 1% day over day or year over year is hugely
It's
impactful.
huge.
Yeah.
Well, and what you see is, nationwide, people are seeing a shift in the way leads are coming in. It's not just any one of us that we're feeling it, but it's nationwide. So the way Google is impacting the way leads are coming to us for PPC, it's all changing,
Yeah.
and we have to stay in front of that and
Yep.
constantly be looking for what's going to help us get the most leads for our businesses.
And from the CEO event, the guy who finished it off, the Imagineer, what was his title? He was like
Duncan, he was the chief creator.
For all of Disney. The dude his thinking, nothing you'll ever see in real estate will equate to his thinking. But he brings up amazing points. It's like, look at the biggest companies in the world. They see what's going on in real estate, not our market, not California's market, but real estate as a whole. Explain to me why they're not going to get involved. Whether they're selling the home or they're finding a lead, but tell me how Amazon's not going to get involved into real estate at some capacity. It doesn't make sense. Now, are they going to go be the one selling the house? Probably not. That probably won't be their gig, but they're going to have a hand. They're going to have some type of a fingerprint on our business within the next 5 years. They're far too intelligent. There's far too much funding behind them to sit there and realistically say that that's not a realistic reality that will follow.
It's a revenue arm for their business.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense. And that says us as business owners, we need to constantly be looking at what are revenue arms for our businesses? What are not just leads, but how can we help take care of our clients and also look at revenue streams, and that's how can we help people flip homes without having to make it a difficult process that they never want to do it again? And how can we help investors make it super easy and hit an easy button to where we are right in front of them every single time? We literally could have 10 arms to our businesses if we just look at what's in front of us.
Yeah, exactly. Auditing your system, just 1%. Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, so as far as, I got a lot out of the real estate stuff, but I guess one thing is that it goes back to everything's your own fault. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you're, listen, how many contracts you got, how many houses you got under contract right now, Brian?
11.
11, that's your fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's his fault, and that's great, but it's his fault that he did the work before. So if you don't have any work, it's your fault. Go find your work.
Yeah.
Go find no, go get to yes. It's always you first.
Yeah.
And if you don't own that, then you're not gonna last.
Yeah.
You've got to own your lead gen. Own your massage of said lead gen down the road, right? Because if you allow somebody else to own it, regardless of who's doing it, you are still in charge. Go follow up on it. Touch those people, even if it's somebody else. I have a lot of leverage in my systems already just for a solo guy. I don't talk to a lot of clients unless they're actually looking at houses right now, and I love that. But if I don't own the fact that they're still in my business and my CRM, I'll lose them.
Absolutely.
So just own everything within your realm and your business, and the outside stuff, don't focus on it too much.
That's awesome. So what tracks did you guys follow? So this year Family Reunion was a little bit different where they tried to cluster you in an area of the conference center, a little bit because of COVID, but also I think it probably made a little bit more sense. They were able to then, there was days where I know we sat in the same office or the same room, didn't move, and we saw 15 different people speak. Awesome. I loved that. I also got really jittery and had to stand up a lot and walk around.
But for logistics, it was brilliant.
It would make great
Because
sense.
logistically, moving 20,000 people to each room versus just a handful of speakers to each room,
If you'd been to a
you can
family
see a
reunion
DOO
before,
was in charge
oh
of
yeah.
that.
If you've been to family before and you try to walk the hallways during the
Oh.
15-minute breakout, imagine shoving your high school times 20,000 people down a hallway is exactly what it would look like at every family reunion. This time we kind of sat there. So what breakouts did you kind of follow? You were individual team, coaching, leadership? Which one were you in there?
So I hopped a little bit.
Yeah.
So I kind of hopped in between leadership and then individual agent plus an admin.
Cool.
And that was my strategy going in, even though I am, at the team level based on the number of agents I have in my business. I found that for efficiency's sake, the individual agents with one admin that really do well are super efficient. So that's why I focused on that breakout, because they have really good tooled in systems because they have to.
In order to be, what Mr. Fisher was just saying, to be leveraged and be a highly effective individual agent, you have to have your systems in law.
There's no option.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
lot of those individuals that are speaking on those stages, they could have a big team. It may not be in their vision.
many of them did, like one of our speakers, Gregory Tran was fantastic. I mean, he had a team and then he stepped back because he found that was where he was most profitable, most efficient, and that was his life by design.
Some people don't want to
So-
have a team, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people don't want to manage people. They want to manage a person and then run their business. Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Melinda, I know you said you were in expansion.
Yes.
Were you just there the whole time for the most part?
I did step out to a couple different team sessions, and then I was on a panel on one of the admin
Yeah.
agent.
The team and expansion were very close together for a
They
very
were.
smart reason.
I think they
Yeah.
had the same speakers, just
They
going
did.
back and forth.
Yeah, they did. And it was kind of neat to listen to Sarah Reynolds say one thing in expansion, but then say something else completely different, not different, but to a different audience where you took away something different from the
Yeah.
same exact, conversation.
Mhm.
Brian, which one did you follow around there?
I stayed on the individual agent stuff, and probably shouldn't have, but that's okay. It was good stuff in there.
There's always something to learn no matter
There's always
which,
something.
whatever room you're sitting in, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I stayed at.
I
though,
went and
for the
watched
most
Rachel
part.
for like 15 minutes before we went to the next one. I was like, I learned something there that I didn't even have a clue was possible, what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
watched
I
that
was
one
just
too.
like,
yeah.
I was there for 5 minutes. And I'm like, cool, you get to learn something. Awesome, guys. So I know I asked each of you guys kind of bring up something, either the ahas or a conversation starter topic. For me, my biggest takeaway from all of family, and it was kind of a reoccurring theme, and I just mentioned it to you guys a little bit ago. And then Ashton and our team kind of reminded me of that theme of the whole entire weekend really was everything. And it's funny because no matter if real estate's really, really good or if it's really in a down area, right, where things are a struggle, it's always going back to the models, and systems. If you didn't watch it, was it on the vision speech where Mark brought up his shirt that's now
Yeah.
for sale? So Rachel posted it online about like the buy dirt. There's a couple other ones. Mark brought up a shirt on stage and it was a kind of a joke, but now it's being sold like crazy all over the place. But it says the MREA is still, and it's blanked out, relevant. So the MREA is still freaking relevant. And to me, we all know that, and you can read it 100 times and it's still going to be good the next time as well. But getting back in systems and models, making the basis of your business there, you're not able to be creative unless you have a strong foundation, and the strong foundation is built in your systems and models. Between the culture, systems and models, you're right there all day long. So Melinda, I'll let you talk a little bit about, so you mentioned you're on a panel, you did the admin mastermind, or is it a panel or mastermind?
It was a panel for
Panel.
and agents with an admin.
Awesome. So what was a overlaying point or a break or a topic that you took from there?
Really for agents and admin, as you're hiring your first admin, is making sure you follow the model and the system of career visioning. Like that is number one. Because if you don't have a model and you don't have clearly defined items that person's going to take care of and take off of your plate, then they're going to be trying to wavering, right? They're going to be trying to figure out, and it's going to go so much faster if you have an actual job description. You talk about what you want them to do and take off of your plate, and that way they can go running, and then they can start just pulling stuff off your plate and empowering them. Like Adam said on our panel is, I hire talent and then I get out of their way, and getting out of their way means let them own their role. And I've seen some teams where a rainmaker will hire an admin, and then they'll say, well, go do this, and then they'll go do it instead of giving them time to do it. And then that doesn't empower anyone. That person just almost gives up and thinks, man, I'm not fast enough, or I'm not good enough for this person. But if they'll just give them a chance and give them that window to learn the systems, learn the process, and then they will make it better than the agent can. Because that's their strength, right? The agent their strengths are fast and bullet points and going quick. And the admin strengths and director of operations strengths are details and systems and fine tuning all of that to make it better. And I've seen that. I've seen that in Adam's business. I've seen it from the time I've started to now, like we have 23 people and now we've grown expansion, and just those systems and models can, like, even hiring people better than me as we keep growing. I find people better than me, and I'm not afraid to hire people better than me because I know they're going to push me to be better, and they're going to look at the system differently than me, and they're going to help us make it even better and more efficient. So it gets really exciting when you see that impact of people and talent around you to push you to be better.
Yeah, I think that, our job is to show them the vehicle, right? We bring them on through real estate, and it's like, here's your vehicle. You're the DOO, or you're my admin, you're my transaction coordinator, whatever that may be. You show them the road and you let them drive it, right? They have guardrails.
Yep.
Right? They choose which lane they're in within that highway, which may be the fastest or the one that they need to find and fix those potholes that are there. Because we all have holes in our business, whether we want to believe it or not. There's all something that needs to be improved or a system that needs to be implemented. And that if you're in that person's way, or if you go do it for them, they are now being taught to overlook the same holes that you've overlooked in your entire business. Yeah, you have to let them take.
And they're
ownership
taught
of it.
they're not valid. And I would say the biggest piece that I love about career visioning is when you're, sitting down and that person's starting, and Chris and I start working together, doing that expectation dialogue and going through that so we know how to communicate. Because if you know how to communicate and how do I win with you or how do I lose with you, like if respect's something really big to you and I go and disrespect people, you're going to just want to part ways with me quickly. Like, those things are really important to know how people win and lose with each other. Like Claire on our team, I know what's important to her, and how I win with her is if I schedule something with her and put it on her calendar, if I don't show up, that's going to frustrate her. So making sure that those little things, and then you have to communicate. Like communication is for a director of operations or an admin position with an agent, like you have to keep talking, and because I can't read your mind, you can't read mine. I mean, and if I did try to read your mind, I'm going to assume a lot of things that are probably not going to be true because I'm going to see things differently than you. And so you have to talk and bring awareness. Like what I love is awareness does so much of the heavy lifting. If you bring awareness to a situation, people automatically want to try to fix what's happening. And then you got many solutions to come up with when you bring awareness to it.
Absolutely. And I think CV really, going through CV, the class, teaches you to be mindful of that while you're going through the KPA process. And by the time if you've not gone through a KPA, by the time that individual has accepted the job on your team, there is a lot of trust built into there because you've spent 8 hours in an interview with them, whether it be phone or in person or them taking the KPA itself. They've built that trust. But if you get in their way, or if you start doing their job for them, you've lost it all, right?
Well, one of the things that Gary talked about around that is, the goal of the KPA process is to understand the person. The decision to hire them or to make them part of your world is a byproduct, right? So, and I hadn't thought about it in that perspective. I mean, he even talked about like his CPA. I mean, it's going to go through the process. His bookkeeper, his trainer, right? I mean, his key people, even outside of real estate. It's that important, it's pretty cool.
He made his attorney do it when he was in a lawsuit, which was hilarious. I'm like, I guess it makes sense. Why would you hire somebody to be in your world as an employee, make them do this, but then you're hiring somebody to defend you for potentially millions of dollars, but you don't care.
I mean, that made me rethink my entire support network for my business. I'm like, wow, who am I in business with? And do I really understand them?
Yeah, you may not know.
One of any of us have hired the wrong person, which I can't imagine none of us have done that. You realize quickly how, when you're not in alignment or your beliefs and values don't line up, it's like toxic
Mhm.
situation. It can create a toxic situation. So I have hired a ton of people from my previous industry. And I will tell you, I've never seen a hiring process system like career visioning.
No.
That's why I'm like, this makes it easy.
It's time consuming.
It's time consuming, but.
But you're like, I have my playbook right here for me,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Have you hired yet?
No,
Well, your wife, right?
not really. But
She got stuck to it.
no, there was some conversations differently than career visioning and KW specific that happened. I went to an event with Jocko Willick that talked about extreme ownership, right? And he talked about just hire somebody as a temp for 90 days. And if they don't work, fire them. They're a temp. Who cares? Hey, you're coming on in a temp role. Here's what you're gonna be doing. This is a test. If you want the job, you got 90 days to earn it. As an idea, and then you learn them through the 90 days, you're paying them along the way. It's one way that he's used in his business. Seems like fun.
It's, and
Is
you know,
what it
it's,
seems like. Seems like fun. And you know, and I'm not, this is not the first time I've ever heard this from a business owner, but fire fast, right? And same type of situation is what I heard in that, hey, hire as a temp for 90 days means fire fast,
that's what,
in another language.
I think that's the biggest struggle. Just like the human struggle of hiring and firing, especially when you're following CV. You've spent so much time with these people as you're going through the KPA process. And if it's not working out in that first 60 days and you see it coming, you're like, dang, like it may lead to this where it has to be a hard conversation. And you know the answers, you need to separate as business partners, but you spent so much time with them, it makes it more difficult, right? But everybody's hired 90 days at a time. Right, that's how it
That is
happens.
absolutely true.
Yeah.
But can I give you another example of where the 30, 60, 90 and success through others, they talk about doing a PIP if someone isn't on doing the things that they should be doing or in the right level where they should be based on your goals and your 30, 60, 90. And we have hired people and we've put them on a PIP, and the PIP is a performance improvement plan, and that just spells out what are you seeing that we're having issues with, and then what's our action items of how to fix those, and then what's the goals. And I have seen multiple people be put on a PIP and rise above anything that I would have ever thought.
Yep.
And then I've seen other people be put on a PIP and decide that they exit the business by themselves.
Right.
And so it takes care of itself. Like if you put them on a PIP, but I find if you don't do that, there's a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication. And every time that you put them on a PIP and you have those standards and set expectations in that section, there's awareness that, again, does so much of the work, because sometimes people aren't aware of their behavior and their actions, or that we're frustrated. Like, oh, I didn't realize there was an issue here. I mean, it's mind-blowing sometimes to us, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, talent will find their way up or out,
Mhm.
right? And if they're not talented, they're gonna find their way out, whether it's not completing the PIP or they look at it and go, this isn't what I
Right.
want to
I
do.
don't want to do
And we've
this.
had that.
Yep.
And it's an awkward conversation afterwards. You're like, hey, here's how you're gonna be successful and we want you to be successful. They're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, all right, cool. Like you've answered the questions. Your trajectory is different.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. That's okay. Brian, hiring, right? I know you're looking at it right now. I know you've done some hiring, whether it be VAs or in person, bringing on agents onto the team.
Yeah.
What does it look like after family reunion? What things besides CV? We've talked about CV enough, we all realize it now, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, and my background, I did HR for 10 years before I got into real estate, so I'm no stranger to hiring, but I think, view it like lead generation. So it's not a loss. When you're spending time to understand someone, there's value. And so that's the way I view approaching any relationship, even as an individual agent. Anytime you're taking the time to understand someone, then there's value there, right? I taught at a real estate school for a couple of years. It's amazing how many people had an interest in real estate, didn't get their license, and now are past clients of mine, right? And I'm sure those of you that have gone through the hiring process, if they're not a fit, they may turn around and be an add to the database, and then they turn into a client later on down the road. So you can't view that investment as a loss just because that person isn't a fit when you understand them.
100%. Yeah, I think that, and we look at it like a pipeline, just like your sales pipeline. If you're hiring at a high level, even if it's your first hire, you're not gonna interview, you probably will not interview one person unless you go cherry pick this person, right? Unless, you said, hey, I want this person either, but you're gonna maybe put out ads or you're gonna have people recommended to you. And let's say you have 5. Well, that's now your transaction coordinator pipeline, just like it would be your buyer pipeline or your listing pipeline. And it's a funnel, right? And the KPA process is a funnel. They make it through funnel stage 1, 2, 3, they hit down to 8, and it's ready for that to drip, right? For you to hire them if you choose to.
Well, you can hire leverage without being a team too. So, I mean, I want this to be
100%.
relevant. I mean, so everybody hears it. You can hire a transaction coordinator, you can hire a coach, right? Little bias there, sorry. But seriously, I mean, if you're not at that point in your level, then at that level in your business, if you're not there, then you should be surrounding yourself with someone, even if you're not in a position to pay a salary.
If you have Onward here, which is a huge, absolutely amazing benefit, one, you need to interview them, right? You need to interview to say, is this culturally aligned with my business? Is this what I want to do? Do I believe in what they're doing and do I fit with them? I believe that most of us would say yes there, right? And can it be a leverage benefit for me and also a win-win, right? Yeah, probably so, but it shouldn't just be a blanket, here you go. Because if you don't like the way that something's done, then you either need to leverage it yourself, hire it yourself, or choose that you're going to be that person forever, which may not be the best option, but that leverage has to fit, whether it's hired by you or if it's a third party.
Those are pay for service.
Mhm.
They're not hires.
Yeah.
They're pay for service. And that's, if you don't look at it as pay for service, then I think you're looking at it wrong.
Yeah.
I don't get to dictate what they do for me. I get to ask them what they do for me for the price that they're charging. It's a pay for service, right?
And you have to know that beforehand.
That's a huge, huge deal for me, right? What am I getting for my money? And that's it. I leverage, so I leverage out all of my inbound leads come in, calls go out. I have no idea who does it. I like what they do. I don't know why. I know I pay for it. People get live transferred me. There was 2 this morning. I like that.
Nice.
Cool. So that's a pay for service. I don't necessarily, I know the result. The result is people come in about 10% of the time as a live transfer, 5 to 10% of the time off of a lead. So that I'm paying $225 for through command. So not bad, right? I don't think. Then it's my job again to continue, right? So I have now paid for my service. My service is completed. Now it's my job. There's where hiring could come in that sense. Transaction coordination is pay for service. I don't get to dictate what they do for me. They get to do it. Same thing with if I hire somebody to make cold calls for me. I don't get to tell them what their scripts are. But I can adjust whether or not I pay them. And that's where my leverage comes in, or I think it keeps my head a little clearer whenever I'm actually getting the results or not results from what I'm getting, right? Were my expectations a little bit higher than what they should have been?
I think you're bringing up a good point, accidentally, I think.
Sure.
But how do you know if you're getting your return?
Yeah, you gotta track everything.
And if you don't,
Everything. And so yesterday I had a call with one of these services and I asked them, how many phone calls did you make this week and how many contacts? And they said, well, we don't give you that information. I said, then you're gonna give me my money back very quickly.
Good for you.
They said, well, wait, we're new. We don't have the bandwidth. I'm like, listen, I gotta know everything. I'm paying for this service. And if you don't like it, then you can give me my money back. I will go find somebody else to do the same thing that will give me what I need. And that's it, whether it costs me more money or not. So they're starting that service. For me, they're gonna give me that every Friday.
That's
Right.
I
awesome.
mean, it's just one of those things.
to know if your business is being successful, you have to track your system.
Absolutely.
Right? You know that your lead was 225 through command.
Sure.
You know that you convert them from your live transfers at 50%. I don't know,
Maybe, yeah,
I don't know the
less.
number, right? But you do.
Sure.
You can track that.
Because they're in everybody's database, don't get me wrong. I know that. I know that, it's okay.
But at the same time, if you're not getting the lead measure, you
Yeah.
don't know how to properly track your lag measure.
Right.
Right? So if you go, I need 10 closings a month, right? My goal is 120 units this year. You don't know how many leads to feed them if you don't know how many calls and what their conversion is on that.
Right.
And they have to be able to provide that for you, which is whether you're an individual, which just like Brian is, Or if you're a team, right, if, you know, we have a director of Legion who I can ask Ashton, you can ask Claire, any metric, and it's,
Yeah.
give me 2 seconds with, they probably haven't memorized day to day, but give them 2 seconds, they'll pull it up and say, we're at 72% conversion on X, Y, or Z.
One of the things I took away from, and it was just a random thought while I was sitting in there, I don't even know if anybody said anything, but layering those different services on top of each other is something I'm working on over the next 3 months.
Yeah.
So lead comes in, why do I have to necessarily nurture it? Can I use this service to layer on top of the other in a better way?
Yeah.
So I'm exploring those different things to maybe make myself a little more efficient.
I mean, 41% based on the vision, speech and all the economies, because I get into tech and economy, 41% go online first. The leads go online first. I mean, that's a huge portion of the business.
That number changes every year
It does.
drastically.
You know, yeah, we were at 19% contact a realtor, which is cool. 9% go to lender first. And so if you actually, and I threw up some cell phone slides. Yeah, click on it so I can actually click. Yeah, let me go. There's all kinds of fun stuff these are my cell phone photos because I don't have these released, so you have to excuse this. There it is. Yeah. First step in the buying process specifically. It has it here. So contacted a bank or mortgage lenders. It's the highest it's ever been at 9%, which Brian and I were talking about earlier, which is interesting to me because has anybody seen an uptick in lender referrals? I haven't. So what is that telling you, right?
They all date realtors.
They all date well. That's my, yeah, no, that's true. So true. Yeah. Number one, like the most popular Super Bowl ad was Rocket Mortgage, right? So I mean, they're lead genning. They're going out for our people, and people are going there first now because they're actually doing a better job of getting in front of people. And so that doesn't scare you. It should.
Well, and I do know that the realtor does have a total impact on what lender a client uses. So I don't think that that's skewed all the way. Like 9% are coming from a lender, but I still think the real estate agent has a huge impact on the client. We just have to know the value that our lender brings to the table and be able to convey that to them. Because I mean,
Why not love the ones that are out there getting the leads? That's what I've done a little bit of. I mean, there's not been one lender in this town that has paid me any money since I started doing real estate business. Not one. Nor do they owe me anything, right? I'm not owed it, but nobody gives it to me. But they're asking for my love, right? They're asking for my love. Okay, cool. I strategically rewrote my wife's resume, got her a job at VU, helped me get into the program. A year later, she left for personal reasons or whatever, and now she's doing business with me. I'm still in that program. I'm going to love them as long as they're giving me money. And honestly, it's free. And I think if people aren't taking advantage of that 9%, especially as early as you possibly can in your career, then you're dead in the water. Because the local lenders and all of that, they don't love you. Not like you. They don't love me like they love you guys, right? And that's okay. I didn't earn it yet. You did. But I got to go a different route. And I see 9% right there, and I see that as an opportunity. I see an opportunity for me to break into something that, other people are like, well, let's keep this local thing. All right, cool. I'll take a Rocket Mortgage guy. Sure, it's not a big deal off of my back. I can talk to a loan coordinator through email or on the phone in Wisconsin the same as I can in Missouri. So what's it matter if they're in Springfield? So again, I think that's an opportunity right there. And I think that leads to the future for me specifically, because when I wrote down something here saying next slide, I think it is 29% of people have used their agent before. Or that was on the seller slide. Maybe I wrote it before it went away and I didn't get a picture. 29% had used their agent before, which means that a buyer becomes my seller down the road at 29% of the time. And if I keep that at 29 to 35% of the time, I'm doing really, really well. So, and you're looking at 43 buyers last year. If I could keep 30 of those in 3 to 5 years as being sellers, those are multiplication numbers, right?
So I challenge that, right?
Yeah.
I hate when you see numbers like 80% of the time the seller or buyer
Sure.
would have used their agent again, right?
Yeah.
Their agent did a great job. They left a 5-star review.
My fault.
Exactly, 100% your fault, right?
You know what I
We
mean?
don't strive to be
My
average,
fault.
right? And 29% is average. So why is
Yeah.
that number not a 50 or 60 or 70% that you're striving for? Because
But if I can just luck into 29,
if you're average.
you know what I mean? If I can luck into 29% repeat, then that's a good repeat.
Well,
It's not a bad repeat. either way.
Your compound effect. will
Sure.
grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this stat isn't on the slide, but Gary had shared, you know, as far as seller interviews, we're talking about listing, about 82% of the time they use the first person that hit the door. So that's why they would use, but they're not.
Mhm.
It's because someone's getting to the door before you.
Yeah.
I'll speak.
This is open.
Brad Korn used to be like the listing man of the world, Independence, Missouri.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a god in Heartland region. His famous line is, "The battle is not at the kitchen table, it's getting to the kitchen table." He'd speak for days just on that because he knew 82% of the time, if he showed up, he signed the listing.
Isn't that crazy?
Built his business.
If you broke the threshold of the door, you're averaging 80% success.
4 out of 5 times, even if you have zero skill.
Well, it's great. I have zero skill.
What are you
I
doing?
listed
don't
a house
know.
within 2 months. I had no idea what I was doing.
No.
Right? I have zero skill whatsoever.
I hope all my coaching clients are hearing that. 4 out of 5 times, just get to the door.
Yeah. And because I got his mail. Like legitimately, that's why I listed the house, is because his mail came to my house. I went and delivered the guy's mail to him, said, "Hey, how are you doing?" I was in his door. Didn't even call, you know, I wasn't
That's
invited.
awesome.
Wasn't even invited, listed his house in like 3 weeks. So, you know, things like that. But you're right, 82% of the time. Get
Careful doing that. Sometimes the lady will take you on an hour-long tour of your house.
I've been there too. I don't want to go on those.
I'll never forget Noel. Oh, man.
She may have forgotten about us. I don't know.
But
I don't
those
know
are,
if Wes
those are
followed up real
funny
well with that one.
to me. Those are funny to me, those statistics in general. And I wish I had the other one, the seller one, because I think that I think you should merge those slides need to be merged. Because one absolutely is an impact on the other, in my opinion.
100%.
And they're all variables in how my day goes.
Well, and let me find another one. Oh, there's another one. I think, tenure, this is interesting.
I love this.
8%. Like 8% of the people that sold were in there for less than a year. I mean, that, and I think we all feel that, but absolutely. I mean, this is happening nationally too. The equity is in there. So.
Well, with COVID happening and so many people moving from California, Texas, East Coast to.
Find whatever else they can find.
They could buy the most expensive house in Springfield, Missouri. And so some of them overbought and they're ready to move already because they're not happy with what they bought. And some of them bought sight unseen, which
Crazy.
is
but
crazy, but so if you're not staying in front of them, you're losing. Like
We've had quite a few clients that came in and said, you know, what's your rental market like? Man, it's just as difficult to find a decent property as it is to find to buy a house. So California buyer, right? $1 million buyer. And they're like, what can I sell really quickly next year? A 322 in Nixa or Republic or Ozark. And they're like, all right, cool. Find me one of those. I'll live there for a year, figure out what I like or dislike, and then I'll sell it.
I have a client that's building a big custom home
And they bought one just to.
and they bought, instead of
Yeah.
renting.
Yeah.
And they bought a 322 in Nixa. They're like, yeah, great, you know?
That, that's gonna turn into another buyer. It may or may not turn into another listing because they may keep it and rent it or whatever else, or
Either way, they're in a good financial
Yeah.
position, right?
they're
you've done
equity.
your job as their fiduciary.
Yeah.
Right, and they'll refer you to everybody that they know coming over from California.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's a massive impact that we have, being in the Midwest, right? You have these people from California, New York, Chicago, Florida, they're like, I just sold my house I've lived in for 55 years, haven't touched it. It's got the original carpet and I have $3 million to spend. What can I buy? What do you want?
What do you want?
Yeah.
You can buy anything you want.
My favorite line is from these metro buyers that are going, I want to be within like 30 minutes of town. Is that possible?
That's literally.
It's everywhere.
just
I won't
don't
go
know.
further than that.
Right.
Exactly, they don't.
They don't know what they don't know.
No, Absolutely not. Cool. Brian, you got anything else from these slides or Melinda,
Yeah,
you got
no.
anything else from these slides that you guys are noticing?
So this was interesting to me. You
That
know,
was a great slide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't want to monopolize Melinda if you want.
No, you go for it. All of the slides were really powerful and Gary's so good. This is my favorite, actually my favorite piece of
Yeah,
family reunion is the vision speech.
you do
And
such a great job breaking it down.
he has an economist on staff that I mean, definitely can think and look at these things way better than me.
That guy
So,
hates getting up on stage during business. He
You can
hates
tell
it
it,
so
you can tell it's an
bad.
economist.
He
It's
hates it.
just-
We ran into him at dinner one night. He was just like, we said hi and it was great, hearing from me. And he was just like, please don't talk to me. And there's like 6 of us, let alone the 15,000 out there in the crowd. But, so why is that? Why is first-time home buyer, I mean, I think we know the answer, but, right, open conversation. Why is the first-time home buyer percentage 8% under the national or the all-time average?
Well, and ultimately it comes to affordability, which I have a few slides on that too, that the height of affordability is actually at the crash of the market. Looking at
2010?
yeah, look in 2009 and 2010. I mean that half of the market at that point was first-time home buyers. There was all these people just waiting, and that was their opportunity to buy.
Well, about half of that half were the people who didn't have bankruptcy. So that's part of the reason there, right? 2009, 2010, right? You had a third of the nation that had foreclosure, bankruptcy, missed payments for 6 months at a time. They're not getting a loan.
Smaller
right?
demographic.
Right, for sure. I don't disagree with you. I think part of it, I definitely think that the affordability plays a little bit of the role, right? We can all say that. But when I don't know if you have the affordability slide that he had,
Yeah,
it really wasn't,
I have a couple.
yeah, it wasn't that, there we go. So like, we're still at a decent level for affordability, right? And we have been for quite some time. Not a whole lot different than it was in 2010. We were to 14 in 2010 for affordability, and we're to 16 now. I think what it is that they're not able to afford beating out the person that's moving from somewhere else, right? The person who bought their house in 2010 for $100,000 that sold it in 2021 or 2022, and they sold it for $500,000 or $600,000. I don't care what affordability may be. A first-time homebuyer doesn't have the affordability to fight that.
They're at a disadvantage.
Yeah,
Right.
The folks
their
that-
payment has to be a specific amount of
Yeah.
their
Right, so they,
income. Yeah.
exactly, their affordability technically within the payment to their income is similar, but they can't jump 50 grand and cover a $50,000 gap to appraisal.
Well, on this slide, I mean, if you never looked at this, affordability is measured by the percentage of someone's income that it takes to buy their house.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about 20% being the average, roughly. I mean, if this isn't something you're talking about in your buyer's consultations, it should be right. Because, we're doing all this stimulation, and rather the government is trying to stimulate the economy. And it's worked a little bit. It actually went backwards for a little bit, and then it went back up this past year. But our interest rates have been rising with the past year, and affordability is actually going up, which is interesting.
Kind of weird.
So in a perspective, this was my favorite slide of the whole vision speech, because I had really never looked at this. This is looking at the true kind of cost of things for car, gas, home, and then wages, all in perspective, and adjusted for inflation. And then the percentages are actually what they are compared from 1989 to now, adjusted for inflation. What's fascinating to me is, gas, it is expensive. We all felt it, but now we know it. But then home prices almost 59% up, but the mortgage is 24% down. That was fascinating to me.
So your appreciation is instant, really, with the amount of appreciation going up as it has been. I know it's gonna level off at some point, but I mean, and that's why buyers, especially first time home buyers, they just need to be educated. They want information so they can make the best decision. They want to know is if I go over $10,000, am I going to be hurt right away? Well, the answer is no. So we just have to make sure we're able to educate them.
Carrie said something in a mastermind that we had, and she was telling her clients, I will write this offer, but you have to understand that you cannot come to me in the next 5 years, let alone a year, 2 years, 3 years, but in the next 5 years, and expect me to get you out of this without you bringing money to the closing table. I talked to her a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago about it, just joking, and she's like, I still mean it when I say it, but I don't know when that's not gonna be true, like, or when it's gonna be true. Because right now, our appreciation is kind of battling that, even if these ridiculous offers that people are winning with.
But it's because the demand is so high and the
100%.
supply is so low.
We can't rely on that forever, though.
Right,
Well,
no,
right.
we can't.
And
Eventually it's
that's,
gonna correct
that's my
itself.
concern as a whole of real estate. Not necessarily people sitting in this room or the people listening online because they're being educated, but how many new realtors are we gonna have? You may know this. How many new realtors is Springfield gonna have this year?
Oh, gosh.
Probably
It's-
Well, and when is that number
Probably under
gonna
1,000.
start slowing down?
That's
That's
my
the other
point.
question is when does that number start slowing down too? Does it follow the market late or does it follow early? Probably late, right?
Late,
It's
yeah.
lag.
It
So
is.
it's gonna be a late line.
Just due to the fact that we have such an inventory shortage, it has to be a lag measure
Right.
or a
Well,
lag result.
To highlight the inventory shortage too, and this is something I highlighted from Gary Keller's vision speech too. He said, we talk in terms of inventory, but in order to sell 6.1 million homes, which is what we did last year, there had to have been 6.1 million homes to sell. Right, so we talk in inventory as far as shortage of inventory. The real issue is the velocity at which our inventory is being taken.
Right,
Right.
right.
So it's not really that we don't have any listings. They are down, but they're selling really,
The
really
demand
quickly.
is super high and it's, new generations are ready to buy. They're able to buy. And they've been saving, like, new generations have been saving a lot more than when I was buying my first home. And they want the home they want to live in for a long time. They don't want to buy a starter home. Like several people in our team in their 20s and early 30s, they don't want to settle for just this bare home. They want to get that $300,000 and $400,000 home. And so they're willing to pay for it. So they're willing to save up for it.
And you can see that
Mhm.
by what our builders are building,
Oh, yeah.
right? Look at, like, Cronkite tends to be an entry-level home that a lot of our buyers have bought. Go look at what they've been building 2 years ago compared to what they're building now. And it's not just the cost, right? The cost is different for sure, but they are doing things a little bit differently in those houses to appeal to a different buyer
Mhm.
or to a more educated or a more established buyer nowadays, for sure.
So I didn't have anything on there, but we can't talk about this. I thought it was fun. Compensation negotiations. So when inventory is low, and we have a lot of new agents in the market, we start to see people cutting commission. So it was really interesting to me that almost half the time it's initiated by the agent.
Which is sad.
Mhm.
Stop cutting your commission. I know an agent, not in our market, but in another market. And she's outside of Kansas City market. And every time she cuts her commission, and I don't coach her, but I talk to her quite often. And I'm like, you have to stop that. You are devaluing yourself as an agent and your
Not
knowledge
just herself,
and everyone else,
right?
right? No.
Everybody else. in our market.
So, and I'm not I cut my commission once in a while if I have to. I get it. I think we probably all have, and we say stop, right? We also say, please come be a real estate agent. Right? It's a 2-week class. It's super easy. And then, oh crap, it's super hard, right? I don't have any money left. Don't cut your commissions. We're talking out of both sides of our face here. If we're bringing people into our industry and going to love them, then I think we should equip them with the appropriate level of education in order to go do their job appropriately. And that does not just mean lead gen, that means in the transaction too.
Yeah.
That means coach your colleagues, please. Coach me. If I'm doing a deal with you, tell me what I'm effing up. Because if you don't coach your industry, this industry sucks. I've dealt with so many agents this year that I do not want to talk to ever again. It wears me out. But all it took was, all it really takes is a conversation with them.
I agree.
And I think we need to do better in our industry for that. Then our commissions will be protected better.
100%.
We don't do a good enough job protecting those commissions other than lip service.
Great job.
That's the number one reason that truthfully, that's why I'm on the ALC this year, right? Is so I can have masterminds or panels like this to where it's.
I didn't mean to go on a soapbox, sorry.
You're good, but we fell off,
I love
right?
this,
We
but-
fell off on some of the trainings.
Yeah.
COVID had some to do with it for sure, right? But these trainings are invaluable, right?
Sure.
To your point, But at the same time,
How do I write an offer?
mhm,
You know, like,
exactly.
sit in
You
here
can go
with, sit
through
in
a
here with a
2-week
rookie
class.
and have them go through through listing paperwork with you.
Yeah.
You know why I win listings is because I know the paperwork inside and out. Yeah, I educate myself, but as an example to somebody who else can educate them. So I heard Jason Maskell say his dad made him memorize the contract. Okay, cool. Like for me, that's different. I have a different brain, right? I took that and I ate it. Thanks, Jason, for saying it because I've memorized the contract.
It's important for
Like-
us to be experts in what we do, and if we
Right.
don't know the contract, how can we go through and
And
explain
when
it to
you
someone?
just fumbled through 20 minutes of contract conversation and the guy's like, you're worth 4%.
Right,
You're right. Yeah, I'll take that 4% because it's only 4% anybody's giving me.
To even further your point,
But
The
hey,
agent
I just
doesn't
screwed up. I'm worth 4%.
right?
You know what I
The
mean?
agent
Same
doesn't even
thing.
believe that they're worth.
Well, they
whatever
don't
percentage
because
that
they're
is.
not.
Mhm.
Ultimately, they're not because they're not confident enough in their own abilities because I don't think the industry has really prepared them to be in front of a client yet.
I agree, the training you take on as a new agent isn't
not
preparing
good
you
enough.
to, but I believe
Which
that
good.
Keller Williams does, like, you can come to our
That's
office
good,
anytime. You
yes.
could call me day or night
Yes.
and I could help you write a contract. Like, that's the camaraderie here is we want to make sure we are available and transparent to other
And
people.
we're very lucky here.
Yeah.
I
Very
think our
lucky.
biggest issue within that is that we don't share that,
Yeah.
right? It's, yeah, we have 2 brokers that are fantastic and amazing.
Yes.
I love both
Yeah.
of them, but they can't do everything,
No,
right? We've got a great market center team that is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic and amazing. We can't rely on them, right? We've got 7 people sitting in this room that are all experienced to be, if another agent calls you or texts you and asks for help, the answer is not no, right? The answer is, the call I was on as this class was starting was like, hey, I can't do it right this second, but I can do it at 4:00 or I can do it Monday at 9,
Yeah.
right? You tell me which and I'll help you figure this out.
And
And,
that protects our commissions.
right, and this person
A
happens to
whole
be,
lot better.
this person happens to be my downline, but it shouldn't matter.
Sure.
Right, there's been plenty of people that are sitting out, you know, in the tech room that grab me, and they're like, I don't know who you are. Thank God they don't, because they would ignore me if they did. And they would say, can you help me with this? And be like, yeah, I have no idea what you're gonna ask me or how long I'm gonna be here. But yeah, like our job is to, if we truly believe in our industry, to Brian's point, like we have to protect it. And the only way we can protect it is by training other people to be as good or better than we were.
yeah,
Bring on the competition.
help each other. Well, iron sharpens
Iron
iron. If we
sharpens
teach
iron,
everyone
yeah.
else to be as good as us, they'll just push us to be better.
This industry, I believe, is gonna have an attrition no matter what.
It is.
It doesn't matter, but those that stick around need to do it well. And I think that if and everybody has that opportunity to do it well, we can help them. I think I can do it better. I know I can.
If you're an experienced agent, please don't ask the other agent on the phone how long you've been in the business, and don't tell them how long you've been in it, because they don't care.
It is.
All right.
Just so we're clear on
Well,
that.
and
That's
you
not
don't
what we're
have
doing.
to look at people and be on a soapbox or look down to them, like just because you might have 30 years of experience.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. It's how well you show up for your client. And, you know, it's people like Brian that he may not know all the answers. And this is something I love about Gary Keller. One of his stories is how the difference between him, a regular agent, and a professional is if he doesn't know the answer, he will go figure it out and he'll come back and tell you what the answer is. Because we don't know everything. None of us know everything. But it's our responsibility and our job to go figure it out, whether we ask 10 people or we dig in and read the contract or whatever it is that we go and be the expert.
If you truly want to learn and you truly want to help others learn and protect the industry, why aren't you following up with the agent after every closing and say, hey, I want to learn from you. I have a couple thoughts of my own or questions for you. Can we go grab coffee or can we get 10-minute break, right? Because I want to genuinely to benefit, right?
Yeah.
Don't pitch them KW. That's not the time to do it. That's not what that's about. But if you saw that they did something that was like, holy crap, that actually was amazing and I don't understand where it's at, go ask them, right? Or if there was things that they didn't do right and you think that they might be willing to listen, initiate a conversation and see if you can help each other out. Otherwise, it doesn't change, right? Otherwise, our industry stays the same, and the same is not good when we're bringing on so many new people that are uneducated.
Come from contributions, one of our
100%.
number one.
100%.
And everybody, I mean, you want a professional, right? You want a professional to represent you. I mean, be a professional.
Well,
It's
yeah,
hard.
and one of the
It's
things that
hard, you
Gary,
gotta learn.
one of the things that Gary said too is people will naturally gravitate towards value. if you give them the choice.
Yep.
So if you want to prevent yourself from being on that statistic and cutting your commission, you give them a choice. Show them the value. And if you don't know how to do that, find an agent that does, right? And
Can't
learn.
remember who said this, but in the absence of value,
Price matters.
yeah, money matters. So you have to show the value.
Yeah, well, and again, it's teaching somebody to show it, right? Helping somebody show the value because you know it'll protect your check on the back end.
I just competed for a listing. It was a friend of mine, and the other agent was a friend of hers as well. And I offered the service to him to call and say, hey, listen, we're gonna list the house. And he said, would you cut your commission to? Because he had already offered it. And that was his first question. It's like 6% with the transaction fee. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. He goes, what did you list it at? And I told him, he's like, well, that's probably a little high. Got offer off market and it's sold already. It was the value that we provided for her that I didn't have to cut my commission. I didn't even bring it up, right? I said, here's what it's, standard charge is gonna be for you here, boom and boom. There we go, we move on. And she said, great, can you send it to me in an email so I can sign it that way instead of sitting here at 8 o'clock at night? I said, yep. And by 8:10, she had signed everything without asking any other questions, right? Provide your value and win it. Don't degrade the company, the entire industry's value by just immediately going to the lack of value. Price matters, right? And that's exactly what happens so often. 47% of the time, the agent brings it up first.
There are so many tools that are all around this office to help you protect our industry and protect your commission. You just have to be willing to look.
I
for
say
it.
the story, I tell the story every freaking time. Every time that I can talk about it. I was brand new. I knew Wes, and that was about the only other person I knew in here. And I had a question. He was in an appointment and I needed help right away. I just knocked on doors till someone answered. It was at the old office. And Carrie Warsh answered the door and she's like, 15 minutes from now, I can help you out for 15 minutes. I was like, that's all I need. Don't know the answer otherwise, so I'll be right back. And sure enough, door was open. I walked in and answered questions, right? She was prepared and able and willing to help. And it really changed my mindset on what real estate was, right? Real estate in my head, like I was afraid to talk to anybody when I first walked in. Think about that. About 80% of the people upstairs that aren't down here that are brand new that you don't recognize, just say hi to them, right? Show them value that way. That's value when they know nobody, right? I don't like just talking to people that talk to people, but be value. It'll come back to you, right? It'll always return. Talking about the culture of our industry, and this was not what this quote was about, but it really relates to it. Your culture will be inherited unless you establish it yourself. It was something that Gary mentioned, or maybe Sarah Reynolds mentioned it in the CEO event. And Gary talked about it again later, like he kind of stole the line. And it really, it hit for me. We just merged teams and like, we have similar cultures, but still different. And if we don't establish one, who knows where it's gonna go, right? Like our cultures are pretty similar on the teams, but you have two that are a little different. Who knows which direction it's going if you don't work to establish one? And I think that's to your point, Brian, like our culture should be to train and teach these new agents in this industry as a whole. And I think that's a value of KW, right? The culture is on helping, generally speaking, right? I don't know, that was a big part for me. Like it really kind of hit home for sure. Anything else that you guys thought of that kind of hit and reminded you or made you think?
Back on the commission thing, and this was from the vision speech too, just some notes that I wrote down, that Gary Carroll had said. He said, do a great job and give, right? So I don't know if you've ever read Gary Vaynerchuk's books at all. If you haven't, jab, 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 right hook, please read it. Main premise, give, then ask for their business. Don't expect ask, right? And that's the big thing. So when you ask, the question that that came to my brain was, how does that person know that you're going to do a good job? And that should come from your word of mouth, your reputation, your character, all of those different things. But if they don't, I'm writing a resume, guys. For strangers that I go into listing appointments with, I'm giving them a resume and I'm doing it like a traditional, no joke. Hey, here's my resume in real estate. You know what, here's who I am and here's how good of a job I'm gonna do for you. Try it out a couple of times, see what works. And it's just for strangers, not for people that I know. I've given a friend a resume, seems weird to me. But I'm gonna try it, and if it doesn't work, cool. I'll just throw it in the trash like everything else that doesn't work, but something that seemed like, you know, Gary Keller asked the question, how does the person know that I'm gonna do a good job? I can tell them, but is that memorable enough for them to hire me? How do I show them and leave them with something that tells them I'm gonna do? That's where my brain went with that. And then it went on a little bit further, letter of references, why not? You know, add something like
To that
that.
point, that's why reviews are so important, right?
Yeah.
That's your letter of reference, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a short blurb, sure, but on every one of our listing appointments, every one of our buyer packets that we take, it's got 3 or 4
Yeah, I have 6 in mine.
on 6, right?
6
We've
letters
got-
of references.
We've got a.
Yeah, so I never heard that or never thought of it in my life. Sitting there is just, that's where my brain, just went down to the
When I go to a
next.
listing, it's my second page.
Nice,
I take
good.
my team, so people they're gonna
Yeah.
interact with, and then the second thing is my letters of references or my reviews that specifically name me
Yeah.
and the people on my team.
Yeah.
Right, and
I have my sales history in my listing.
huge, it's huge.
Hey, here's the house that's old
But
password.
how do I not know this? That's a question I guess I got for not you guys too. Like, how do I not know this already? I don't know why my brain didn't go there already. But you know, and it's put myself in the position to be at the place where I could now know this, right? I didn't like it. I'll tell you that right now. I didn't love family reunion. I'll never go back. But putting myself in the position to learn those things is gonna get me a little bit better. I'll still watch it on TV. And I'm cool with that, but.
Don't put Brian in
but-
20,000.
But no, don't put me in a room with 20,000 people. It's bad for me. But seriously though, that's why I didn't know it. And if I didn't go,
Mhm.
then I wouldn't know it still. And that's the cool thing about going to something like that and being able to bring it back.
Melinda, Brian, you guys might be able to help me. Who was the one that has the promise?
My
that-
kicks.
My kicks.
Yeah, thank you, right? I promise you to ask and earn a referral and a review.
Mm.
Right? That's a simple thing. I do a really good job of asking for reviews. I do an okay job of asking for referrals. I generally feel like I deserve it if I deserve it. I do a piss poor job of actually like going and getting it.
Mm.
But, right, our reviews and our team are more important than just about anything else, right? It's a huge metric that we follow daily. Every single day we're talking about it because it's a non-review is not a good review or a bad review, or a good review or just a non-review. It's telling you didn't do a good enough job for that person to stop their day for 5 seconds and write your review. And I think that's kind of where I've gotten to looking at it, where if we close, if you close 100 transactions, you should want 100 5-star reviews or 100 honest reviews on how you did. And to me, each time you don't get one, either you just really failed on asking and you just never even brought it up. But if you genuinely asked this person and were systematically about it and they chose not to, you didn't do a good enough job to earn it. And I think that's the review in itself on that one too. That's kind of one thing that we've looked at lately. Anybody else? I've got one thing that
One
really hit
last
home for
thing
me.
before you do, can
Go
I?
ahead.
And then
Yeah,
I'll
please.
shut up.
No, good.
And I think it's a thought for later more than anything. I just wrote the thing down. We should have a bubble convo with our buyers and what the red flags are looking like. That was said in the vision speech, that we should start to have a bubble conversation. I don't know what that conversation looks like quite yet. I think the people in this room can help develop that for me. I don't think any of us can really develop it on our own because we're so many different aspects of just our local market.
I think we should do a mastermind just on that in
Yeah.
team meeting. Like, I agree, we can develop that and
And we can say the same message as not necessarily as a business or as a brokerage, but we're saying the same stuff. And our clients aren't getting crazy info from other things. We're getting actual, hey, this is what the data says, and this is analyzed by the top people in our office, is important, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I'm texting them now about having a little breakout or a mastermind or panel during team meeting. I think that's one thing that Gary said to that point was, we're not the bubble's not ready to pop yet,
Mhm.
but the bubble's being blown up, right? You just don't know how big that bubble is going to get before it, pops, or even what happens. Maybe it gets a little hole and it just like slowly like deflates, right? You don't know. None of us really, yeah, right? I don't know. I'll be honest with you. It may not hurt too bad. But the one thing that, and this was a personal one, and I think it came from Sarah Reynolds. It may have came from Cody Gibson, but it said, you need to watch your habits because you can't win if you're dead. I was like, oh dang, right? So what habits are I, and she was talking, and it was Sarah, because I remember she was talking about like her workouts.
The health breakout.
No, this was probably, again, repeat, right? I think this was CEO event. She said it again, similarly on one of the expansion breakouts, but she was talking about her workouts with like the Peloton group that they have, diet, and then just drinking water. That's literally all she was talking about. She said, and she focused first on drinking a gallon of water 3 days a week, I think is what her one goal was. And then she got that down for like 50 days. And then she added in like one workout a week on her Peloton. She got that regular for like 5 weeks. And then she went to 3 workouts. Basically, it wasn't like, I'm going to now go from doing nothing to eating healthy, working out, and drinking water. And it was just like Brian Stone's not going to then all of a sudden throw thousands of dollars at every lead source, right? You're going to focus on one and track it and pull the metric, right? Hold it accountable. And as you do that, you build on it and you build on it and you build on it. And I think that was really what her point was, which I loved. There were plenty of things that you heard this weekend over and over again, right? And it's the same thing you hear. Some of those were the ones that really were the basics and really meaningful. I think it's taking care of yourself and the people around you, and why you're doing this. I think it'll go a long ways.
And the more you take care of yourself, this is something Adam talks about all the time, and I know Gary talks about it too, is if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of everybody else. And so some people hear those messages and say, oh, he's telling me to put myself first versus to helping people. But that's the opposite of what he's saying. What he's saying is if you put yourself first, you will be able to help more people because you're going to feel good and be better. And he's really drilled that into my head. But Gary Keller started out the CEO event and gave us 4 really key pieces. He said, was talking about COVID and making sure you're doing things. So you got to time block your personal stuff, because if you don't, you're not going to do it. You've got to keep your word and respect to others. And then he said, you've got to compartmentalize things and let it go. So like if there's things that hit you, you've got to compartmentalize it and then let it go. I can't say that word. You've got a time block. You make sure you have real friends, not just still friends. So I thought that was really huge. And then watch your addiction to success, because our addiction to success, we can put above our family and our most important things in our lives. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen that in myself. Like you can easily do that. And it's not about the addiction of success. It's just how I just love the excitement of building a business and then seeing how it affects everybody's lives. But I will sometimes put everybody else above my family. And it just kind of spoke to me. Like, what a slap in the face.
And I hate being cliche, but having my daughter, I was just like, I remember what Wes and Sam texted me. I was like, no. And I was like, it scared the shit out of me, the crap out of me. Sorry, I forgot to record, but like it scared me. Because I was like, I've never just said that to anybody. Like, no, don't have time. I could have put her down. I could have given her to my wife. But I was like, no, just not right now. Don't care. Like, none of this mattered, And then, you give it a week and you realize that you're doing it because of that. Where's that balance, right? Putting that first.
Well, what Gary realized is when he really, and he's lived his life that way, and look at his business. And what he realized is the time that he did spend and focus on his business and the things that he had time blocked for the business, he was more efficient because he pushed himself and he was purposeful and had a plan. And he could get way more done than most of us can if we spend 8 hours on it. And it's fine tuning our brain to be really focused and purposeful.
What day did you guys fly out?
Wednesday.
How much work did you get done on Tuesday? All of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
because you knew you're gone, right?
Yeah.
You said if it doesn't get done now, it's gonna ruin my Disney, it's gonna ruin my whatever it may be.
Unless you're Wim Oaks and you like put 3 under contract while you're, the guy was making money,
That's
like,
awesome.
while he was just walking.
Another note for anybody starting out, just schedule a vacation and you'll get a deal, because that's quite honestly how it happens.
It really is.
It's, I don't understand it, I don't like it, but I love it at the same time.
A lot of times the busiest week we have is that family reunion,
Yeah,
which
it
is
was-
great.
It was rather busy for a few of us there, for sure. You guys got anything else, any closing?
So some of my key
You got other
takeaways
points?
that I'll say, specific to the individual agent or the individual agent with an admin is, build your financial dream team. That was a big thing they talked about.
Yeah.
So your bookkeeper, your CPA, which are not the same person, by the way, because one is high level and one is in the weeds. That was a big takeaway. And then your financial planner and your estate attorney, right? So those are the 4 kind of quadrants of your dream team. So if you don't have all of those people in your life, you should, because that means that, you're building for the future. You're building to work yourself out. And then a big takeaway I took as far as the tech side of things is there's this huge movement for adding integrations for companies that we already know, love, and use, more so than when Command initially launched, because I think they realized that Command can't be everything for all people all the time everywhere, right? And they acknowledged that, which was nice.
It was.
And they said, hey, we've made some missteps in terms of trying to be everything for everyone. So they're integrating a lot of add-ons, and something that I hadn't really thought about as far as Command is, just the sheer fact that it exists protects our commission, because that is a competitor in that marketplace, in that market space, that is no cost to the agent. And so it may not be a referral percentage when we're paying for CRMs or technology or leverage systems, but it's a part of our check, really. I mean, indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we should all be glad that that exists, because it keeps those other larger companies from having a monopoly, and it keeps them in check, which keeps more money in our pocket. So even if you're not using it, you should be grateful that it's there. And then with that too, all these high-level individual agents that I saw, the majority of them were just leveraging smart plans within Command. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. People don't unsubscribe from neighborhood nurtures. They just don't. People like to know what's going on in their neighborhood. They may unsubscribe from your recipe or your Facebook feed or your Instagram. But if you're not at least at a minimum using some of the tools that you have, then start there.
I will say this. Do you guys have anything else? I was just gonna. Okay. So on mykw.kw.com, they have released the vision slides and kind of a breakdown on vision. If you click on it, it's on one of the scrollies. That's like an ad basically already there. There is a Vision 2022. Then if you click on the arrows on the side, the next one is 8 mega takeaways from Family Reunion 2022. And then, yeah, there's other articles in here, but there are a couple of resources for you if you weren't able to make it to family until they release the slides, or if you want to come back and kind of remind yourself of some things. There are 2 things on KW Connect. One of them is on outfront.kw.com, and it'll link you automatically there. So again, I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna go talk to Kim and some of the exec staff about doing kind of a breakout or a panel again on either team meeting next week or following. I know next week a lot of people are at CV. I think we're sending like
A lot of people.
60 people to each of the next CVs.
I know everybody that I talked to at Family Reunion after going there was like, I need to go to this.
It might be a good one, this one, because it's in Chicago. If we do it on Tuesday, because that's the Chicago one. So a lot of people are probably going to the KC one, so we could probably do it. Again, appreciate everybody coming down, questions, comments. Thank you guys very much for participating in this. Go help somebody, right? Take some of the knowledge you learned and go help somebody.
Love it.
Thanks, guys.
Love to.
Stop.
You're doing a great job.
Stop sharing.
Stop sharing.
I can never help you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.